The basic grooming is done, and the next step we now want to do is we want to have a hairstyle for our toothbrush. So let's start with the long hair here. So I deactivate the guides for the short hair and for the long hair, and I see, oh, I have here a little confusion. So let's do one thing. So this here is then the long hair, and then this here is the short hair, so that we later can reference better. So let's deactivate the short hair. Yeah, and now we have the long hair and the long guides here. Let's talk a little bit about shaping hair and guides. And if you remember when we talked about in our first lesson of this chunk about the grooming system, I only showed you how to groom hair. I talked about simulation and then how to generate hair, but we never talked about really getting a hairstyle. And to do that, Houdini brings a whole bunch of tools. So if you take a look to the shelves, you see here that you have, I think, 3 shelves here which are working with hair, and here we have brushes. I don't want to use these brushes at the moment because I want to show you what these brushes really do or what's happening if you work with these brushes. And for this we start here with the guide groom node, and if you make a double click on this node here, you will see that you fall into a new context here. You see that in the breadcrumb navigation you are inside of the node, and somewhere inside of the node there is a package here, and that's the package we have here. Here you see the inputs, so we have guides, we have skin, and we have the skin BDB, and the skin is the polygon mesh which you have, and the skin BDB is the volume. And they come in here and directly are outputted here with these output nodes, and yeah, that's it. So this package here is empty, it doesn't do anything. But if you work with guides now, you can manipulate all 3 of these components, and all of these 3 components are important for the system to work. We've talked about that. And what you can do now inside of this context here is that you set nodes into this context and you deliver information to the guides. So the same thing is here if you go out of this system inside of the hair. So if you go into the hair generator, make a double click, you see you have the same inputs here, but normally, because this is the hair generation, we only output hairs. And so this is the only output we have here, but you still can get the information from the other inputs if you need them here for your manipulation. So this is extremely controllable, and some of the nodes which I show you now you can use inside of the guides because these are splines, and also you can use the same nodes inside of the hair because the hair are also splines. So let's take a look what I mean with that. So I dive now here to my guide groom and I dive into that. And to get now these nodes, you can take a look here into your tab menu. Here under hair, there's a whole bunch of them, but I like the radial menu for that. And if you go into your radial menus, you see here, I think 3 different radial menus which you can use. One is the hair radial menu, and if you use that and press the C key, you see you can jump between different objects. So if you select, for example, a guide and you want to jump then to the hair generator or jump into the hair or into the guides, you can do it here. And if you are looking for the tools or the brushes, you go here down and then you are here now into the tools, or here are the brushes. So this is a menu which you can use, but it's a more broad use menu. Then you have the guide tools separated. So if you now press the C key, these are only the guide tools, but like I've said, you normally use them in the guides, but you also can use the same nodes here also in the hair generation process, what we will do in a moment. And there's a third menu here which deliver the brushes here. And if you now press the C key, you have here your cut hair, your clump hair, and so on. So this is for shaping real hairstyles in most cases. Let's go back here to the guide tools. And like I've said, you can start here if you like. So if you select here the container which you want to work with and now press the C key, you have here now some guide tools. And what I want to do here with these outer ring of guides here is I want to change the direction because I want that they look all upwards. There's a tool for that. It's named Set Direction. I click here and you see I directly jump into the subnet again. And you see here's the new node. It's named a guide process node. This is a standard node which you can switch in its use. You see if you look into the guide process node here, you see here there's the operation, and here are the different operations which you see as their own tools in the radial menu. And the cool thing is you have one node and you can have as many operations as you like here with a plus, or you say, okay, I want to have more than one guide process node. So if you want, for example, let's make a little bit more space here, this node directly here in this context, you can type guide process. And then you have here the guide process node as an empty node. You see, then you can set here your process by hand, or you can use here one of these nodes which are pre-configured, but it's the same node. So we have now set up this guide process node. You see also that we have 3 inputs. Here is an input for the guide, here's the input for the skin, here's the input for the VDB. So everything is set and with the outputs which you need. Now let's go to this node itself. We want to have a set direction, and you see that our guides are looking now into the negative set direction, which I don't want. I want to have them all looking upwards. So I set this uniform direction to 1, and now all the guides are looking upwards. Cool. If you want more, you can take now a look into that here. We will dive into some of the process nodes later, but the first thing is done. Now everything is looking upwards, and if you now go out here and look into the hair now, you see that now all our generated hair is looking upwards, and it looks more like a toothbrush for my case. Great. I want to do the same thing here with the short hair. So let's deactivate the visibility here, go to the short hair, select this, set direction, click, and we do the same thing here. Now everything is looking upwards. But for the short hair, I want to do maybe something else. These hairs which are generated here, let's first look here to the guides and then to the hair, look so evenly. And if you have a toothbrush and it's used for some years or some days, you will see that you get a little bit of frizz and a bending in the bristles, and we can generate that. We can generate it on the guide or on the hair, and first start here with the guide. So let's dive into that here again. So I select this again, and if you like, you can do it this time here. So let's take a guide process node, and what I want to do is a bend. If you have a node like this, remember that we need all 3 inputs here connected, and you see Houdini is really intelligent. If you go here into the stream, you see Houdini tries to hook it up correctly, but don't forget it. So we set it here now, and you see in the mode bend, it bends now the guides here, and it bends here in different ideas. You have here the axis computation and where it's calculated from. You have here an angle, and you can now play with the bending here. But what I want is, I don't want to use this angle here at all. I want to use a random angle, and we have to do this really careful. But you see now the guides are looking in different directions here. And if you now go out here, take a look here to our generated hair, we can deactivate here the guides for a moment. You see now it looks a little bit different here. It's not so equally anymore, and this is something I like a lot more. But what you also see is that you have all the bristles which belong to one guide now looking into the same direction. So again, the guide is generating the hair. But what you can do now is you can go into the hair generation itself and there make your adjustments. Let's try this. I select this time the hair generator here for the short hair. And I press the C key and I use now the same operation I've done before. I go, for example, to bend. And we are this time inside here of the hair generation, and now we have a bend again. It's absolutely the same bend. And now you see that you are now bending the hair. And yeah, now you are really creative in changing here the appearance of your toothbrush. I can deactivate this here and have a little bit of a random angle here so that I change here a little bit the look here of the hair also here. The cool thing is this is procedural, so if you have a computer which is a little bit slow with that, you can first make this with fewer hair and then increase the total amount of hairs later. So let's go back here to the long hair. We've played with the long hair a little bit and straightened them so that they look upwards. Then I also want to have a little bit of a bend here. So now you have to decide where you want to place it, here or here. Let's place it here. Press the C key, bend again. And here is our bend. I deactivate the angle. Little bit of a randomness, not too much because it's the guides. Yeah, maybe something like that so that it doesn't look too unused. Great. Go out here. And now we can go here into the hair generation itself if we like. And we can dive in here. And this time I bend again. But this time I want to bend every hair strand here, so that it looks not too evenly. So this is something you can play now at home with. The next thing we want to do here is I want to show you how you get a little bit of a frizz into the whole thing. And for this we use here the short hair again. And I don't want to use this on the guides because I don't have too many guides here. And I think that doesn't look too good. So I go here to the hair itself. Dive into that, and I need a guide process node, so you see the C key is much faster than typing all the time, guide process and so on. So I now take a frizz node, and this here looks like you have really to renew your toothbrush, and my problem here is that the frizz is everywhere. So let's make some adjustments here. The frequency is the speed of the frizz, it's a noise, I think that's clear. Then we have a change of the frequency if you like, the amplitude, how strong this is, so you can make a little bit lesser frizz. But what I now want to demonstrate to you here is how you can mask that. So if you take a look here on one of these strands, you see that the frizz starts directly and gets stronger and stronger here while it's going over the strand. And what you are able to do in all these nodes, so this is only one example, is that you can change the masking. So in every of these guide process nodes we have a masking option, and if you go here we have 3 different kind of masks. We can blend something in, so we can animate this. We also can have a curve mask or a noise mask. So noise mask means we have a noise and only the guides or the hair inside of this noise here are now frizzed, and I think you can see it maybe. Most of the time you see it better if you then go out here and look here. You see there are some areas which are frizzed much more and some areas which are not frizzed at all. And the reason for this is the noise which is here generated. So this is noise mask. And in the red you see where the noise is. So red means, or the bright red means 100%, amount of 1, and black means it isn't touched. So this is the multiplication which you have here. So you also can bring this down if you like, or you can override this. You see the same concept like we had before. What we want to do now is we want to have a mask on a curve itself, on a guide or one hair strand. And this is named a curve mask. And now you see the roots are now black and the tips are now bright red, and this is the mask. So at the beginning of the strand, at the root, this frizz is multiplied by 0, so it's not happening. And the longer the strand is, the more you get this frizz going on. Now you can play here in the curve itself if you like. And yeah, this is a really obvious choice. But you also can work here, and I like this here in the first step more. So you can change the range here, and now you see the mask moving over the strand. And so I cut here and say I want to have this frizz only, for example, beginning at 40% of the strand. And then you also can change here, for example, the fall of how fast this goes then, and yeah, all the other stuff. So this is also something you can play with, and it works with all the guide process nodes. So let's go out here now again, and now you see that we have now on the top a little bit of frizz, and the same thing I think we would do here on the outside. It looks too new for me. A little bit of frizzing again, masking, curve mask. Search for an area where you want to have the frizz really here on the tops, for example, only. Then we can change here the fall off if we like. And then we go here and say, okay, this amplitude is much too strong. Only a little bit. And then we go out. Yeah, and this is now the result. Now we combine these two. Yeah, and this is my first step. Like I've said, it's a creative process. You can do this now at home and play with that. One last thing I want to show you is I want to show you how to work with brushes. So I deactivate the short hair for a moment and I demonstrate this here with the hair. Like I've said, same thing, you can use it for the guides also. I go into the hair here and I switch here to a side view. Make a little bit more space. And you see here brushes like, for example, cut and so on. And if you now switch your radial menu here to brushes, you have now under your C key the brushes. You can lift the hair, you can clump it, cut it, and so on. And what I want is I want to have here for the long hair pattern here. And so I want to show you here the cut hair tool. So I go in here. And now you see that you are back in this context here. Then you can start working here. And I think I want here first to set my display flag here. Go to cut to get now my cutting tool. Maybe it's better. Let's go here and bypass these two. So if you press the B key, you set the bypass flag here, and then you can go back to the guide groom so that you see better what I'm doing here now. And this here is now your brush. If you take a look into that here, it's a guide groom node here. You have here the tools. You can cut, extend, clump, and so on. So everything is in the same node. Here's the radius of your brush. So if you want to change that, you scroll with your mouse wheel, you can change the radius here if you like that. And another interesting thing is here the mirroring. So if you mirror now and look here into your viewport, you see here mirror plane, also here in the perspective, and you can change here the direction, but in our case it's absolutely okay. So we mirror now here, and then I can go back here and start now, for example, playing here a little bit with these. Yeah, I don't think that someone would give me the job to design a medical correct toothbrush, but yeah, you have now cutted the hair on both sides, and if you want now to change something, you have to keep in mind that this brush stroke here is cached. So sometimes if you change now something before that, you have to recache the strokes here. That's really important, so that this is then done again. And this is something you forget all the time, so that you have strokes in it, and remember that you have to recache them here. Or you also can reset if you don't like this anymore. I get rid now of this here, so I set this back, then I go here and say recache the whole thing, and now you see the stroke is still there, but now these nodes are also in the equation of the whole thing. And if you now go out here, you now see that the frizz and all the things are still working here, but you have now a nice haircut here on your brush. And now you can activate the inner things here. Yeah, and that's it, what I wanted to show you in this lesson. I hope you have an idea here now how the whole system works. And if you now go here to a nice angle, control click here on a camera to set the camera exactly from this angle here. You can, with the handle to place this here until you see exactly what you want. Then we can add, if we don't have a light source here, for example, an environment light. So add one here. You can now hook up an HDRI. Let's do that here. Then we can go to the render view and press render. And now we wait, this here is an old image, until now Mantra is generating all the hairs and renders our first attempt of making these bristles.